Hello and welcome to Workshop Studios. Today's project is we're going to take apart an old hard drive. It used to go on a tower type computer. You could put these inside. Got these left over. And normally you want to do something so that nobody can get to your data. You could drill through this, but I thought we'd take it apart and have a look inside. So join me as we do that. Well, so the first thing is looks like 6 screws around the edge, and you got to find the right wrench for it. That's always a challenge, but this little wrench should do it, I hope, for us. So we'll go ahead and unscrew these guys, hopefully. If this doesn't work, then we can do another trick. Yeah, that's kind of not doing it. That one's working. Okay, good. We got one out. This is normally, this type of screw takes what's called a star wrench. Let's see if you can get it up there. So come on, get in focus, you. So it's a little star in there. There we go. You can see a little better. And a star wrench usually has this kind of pattern on it, like that. Yeah, get it in focus there. So those two go together. I just don't have one of these small enough for it. So I was using an Allen type wrench, which is not quite the same, but it'll do it on some of these. Let me go ahead and work on these. All right, so a couple of these were kind of tight, so I used just a regular flathead or blade screwdriver about the same size that'll fit down inside there, and hooked a pair of vice grips on it, and that'll break it free. And now I can use my little Allen wrench to get them all the way out of there. So they'll spin right out of there now. And get those out. Now you could also grind them off, which would work too, if you want to get in there. I mean, this is more trouble than you may want to go to, but there are some nice things inside if you want to get to them, and I'll show you what they are. But again, this is not really necessary. You can smash it with a hammer, you can drill it. There's a lot of ways to make sure your data is never going to go on to be used by somebody else. But yeah. All right, so this is the last screw coming out here. There. So now all the screws are out. Now it's time to get this up, and there's usually a couple of little pry spots, so let's go ahead and work on that. Well, I forgot to mention that sometimes there's a screw here under these. There's a little tape over the top of it. This is usually where the hard drive, the center of the hard drive is actually located. So it's a good idea to either peel this up or break through this. Let's just break through it. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm just sort of scraping through it. It's a kind of an aluminum foil thing on top of this nut here. Let me get that out of there. And there we go. You can see there's another screw right there. So if we hadn't gotten that out of there, this lid wouldn't have come off. Okay, so now everything's up. So let's see if we can pry this up here. There we go. Kind of pops off of there. There we go. And we'll see what it looks like inside. There we go. And this is the hard drive, that mirror surface there. And what happens when you're writing data to it, this little arm goes around kind of like a turntable, but it goes around this thing and writes on it. And I'll move it over here so you can see it. So the data comes in through here, I guess. I think that's right. And then this little arm will go back and forth and write on top of it. And it's spaced so that the space between this little arm and the disk is very, very, very close to it, because the disk needs to spin at very high speeds to be able to write data quickly enough. So what I'm looking to do here is, first of all, destroy this part, because this is where all the data is stored. But these are the things I kind of like to get. These are very, very powerful magnets that are used to control that arm very carefully back and forth. And that's how your data gets written. And so I like to try and salvage these if I can. But first of all, we'll start taking this apart. You can see it's the same kind of a screw here. There's one here that's holding it together. And we'll get that off, and then there's another one down here. You can see that. So there's 1, 2, and we'll just take it from there. Okay, so this screw is loose here, so we'll take this out now. There we go. And we'll see if we can pry this one up now. Yep. So what's holding it on right now is just magnetic. So there's the magnet on it. It's right here. And it's very powerful. I'll show you on the screwdriver. It's a strong one, so I like keeping these. Alright, so now we have the rest of this. So we have 2 more screws here and here. But this little arm may lift off now. Get it out of the way. Of course, you never want to mess with this. If you want to save your hard drive, this is the last thing you want to do. Now that's held on there by a clip, so you may not be able to get it off there just yet. But let me get these other screws out of here, and then we'll try it from there. Okay, got those screws up. Let's see if this will lift up now. This is still hooked on here, this one here. So I may need to get that off. Looks like there's a slot in it. I may have to unscrew that. See if that'll do it for me right now. Yep. See if that'll do it. Well, there's the other magnet, so we got that out of there. I see what the problem is. There's little arms on either side of the hard drive. You can see those little arms come down, and that's what writes on there. This is clearly destroyed now, but that's what we were trying to do anyway. So there's the little tape that brings the data in. Data comes in through these ports here. Get it in focus there. And this board helps to get all that in place. So let's keep working on. We'll see if we can get the hard drive out of there. Let me just break this tape here. Bink, and now that comes out. All right, so I'm going to work on this one now. Okay, so we have those 3 screws out. I left one sitting here just so you can see it. Let's pick it up. Oops, fell on. There it is, right there. So there's the last screw. So those 3 screws are out, and this little disc lifts off. And then the hard drive, I think, just pulls right up out of here. I think. Well, maybe not. But it's loose now. You can see it. It's not tight down. So I may have to pry this one up a little. Have to get under there with something small. Well, it turns out that's not holding it down. You can see it moving on this ring. It's just got a kind of a tight fit, so I got to sort of work it up at the same time on both sides where it starts to bind. Come on, there we go. And there's the hard drive off. Right there. That's where all the data is. Yeah, there I am. There's my camera. You can see it right here. So that's the thing we don't want people to get to. The rest of this is just the machine. But this is the little motor that spins. And those are kind of cute, but I'm not sure we'll get down to the motor. We might be able to. Looks like it's sealed in this case, because doesn't look like there's any way to get down to it in here. We'll have a look at that, see if there's any way to get that out of there. Well, I went ahead just for kicks and took the circuit board off, so there were 5 or 6 screws holding that on there. And oh, there went one right now. And that's what that looks like under there. So this is where it hooks down. I'll show you on the other side. So this set of contacts, I suspect, is where this here and here makes contact on the circuit board. So it was like this. And that one is right here. So that lines up with that. And this one lines up with these 3 here, I think. Yep. So those and those are the contacts between data coming in here and through this into this circuit board and being processed, and then comes out into the hard drive and is put there. So for those of you that know computers, this is going to be boring, but in this case, this looks like an awful lot of electronics just to spin that little motor around. But what it has to do is it has to spin it around at just the right speed, and so that this arm is just where it needs to be on the disk. Let me go get it here. It needs to be just where it's supposed to be on the disk when it's writing data. And then when you go back to retrieve it, it needs to know where it is on the disk. And so there's a lot going on, a lot being processed in here. It needs to know its exact location. It needs to know that the speed is just right. And then it's going to go through the computers talking to the circuit board the whole time, verifying that the data got correctly loaded onto the hard drive. So there's an awful lot of processing going on in these things. And this is a very large chip here. These two are very large chips. This is another good sized one. But so anyhow, that's kind of circuit board. That's don't take me much farther than that. That's kind of all I know about circuit boards and whatnot. So yeah, I looked and I couldn't find a way to get to this motor, but this very, very accurate motor that's in here as well. So I think we're down to the bottom, and now it's just a matter of making sure that this is no longer usable, and there's a number of ways to do that. One is just to take something that can scratch it, and you just go through and that's the end of that disc right there. There's no reading it after that. And this is made out of metal, so it's harder to break this one than it is of floppy disks, which were more of a magnetic film material. So, and by the way, for those of you that go back far enough to know floppy disks versus hard disks, the reason this was called a hard disk is because it's hard. And the floppy disks were floppy disks because they were floppy. And if you remember, the floppy disk is not too much bigger than this. It's about that big, and they had little tiny floppy disks. But you can't spin them as fast. They're more wobbly when they spin. And then they came up with this idea of making the disk out of a harder material so that it can spin much faster and be much more accurate, and you can store a lot of material on it. At the time, this was like a super duper hard drive that stored a half of a 500 megabytes. And so that was a ton of memory. And now we have flash drives, little memory sticks, if you want, that can have 10 terabytes on it. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing how technology has come. So that's scratched up enough. I doubt that anybody's going to get to this data anymore. And most people wouldn't even know what this thing is. So, I might bend it as well. You can do that. It's kind of difficult material. But there you go, just with a little bit of effort, I bent it. So that makes it even harder to read any information off. So at the end of the day, I'd call that D for done. So we'll call that project complete. And want to thank you all for joining. And good luck on your projects as you go forward. If you want to take them apart and salvage magnets, that's always kind of fun. But there you go. That's what's inside of a hard drive. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye!